What is going on, guys? I hope you're all okay. Today I'm looking at 3 third-party DualSense controller options. I did pre-order the official charging station, but because of the high demand and because of the scalpers, there's no stock anywhere. The charging station on the left and the one on the right are from Dobe or Dobe, however you want to pronounce that, and the one in the middle is from Venom. Looking at the first charging dock from Dobe, you can see that the top has a matte black finish with the 2 USB-C connectors. On the back you've got the 4 rubber feet. Now the rubber feet at the back do have a shiny finish, so it'll be interesting to see how well they stick to the table. At the back of the charging dock you've got the USB-C port. The provided USB-C cable is only 90 centimeters long, so it's going to have to be quite close to the plug socket. As the box on the image indicates, the controller is charged in the reverse orientation when compared to the official PS5 charging dock or station. Now I found that placing the controller on the actual dock itself is not as easy as just dropping the controller on the USB-C port. What I've had to do is slightly tilt the dock and then look at where the port is before firmly securing the PS5 controller onto the charging dock. Now this defeats the purpose of a charging dock, as you just want to be able to just drop the controller onto the charging dock and have it go. And to actually take off the controller, you can't just lift, as it'll bring up the whole charging dock with it. That's because the charging dock is fairly light. It's about 58 grams. So what you have to do is press down on the charging dock and pull up the controller. And as you could see, it was a bit difficult to release the controller from the USB-C connector on the charging dock. So initial impressions of this charging dock are not very good. I mean, it doesn't move around on the table, but when you're pulling upwards it's going to lift up the whole charging dock, which is not ideal. So I'm probably going to give this charging dock a miss and I'll move on to the next one. The next charging dock I want to take a look at is again from Dobe. Now this has a predominantly white look, with the front housing a little display showing the 2 controllers. Looking at the side profile, you can see the 2 USB-C connectors, and at the bottom you've again got the 4 rubber feet with the slightly shiny surface. Now this charging dock is a little heavier than the last one, coming in at 80 grams. The recessed sections are a bit nicer than the previous controller, which had more of a flat profile. So I'm assuming it'll be easier to get the PS5 controllers into this charging dock when compared to the previous one. Just like with the previous charging dock, you'll have to charge the DualSense controllers in the reverse orientation. Now the other major difference between this Dobe charging dock and the previous one is that the USB-C connectors actually come out. To take the USB connectors out for the first time, the easiest way is to connect the controller to the charging dock. So have the controller facing towards yourself, orient it in the reverse position, and then simply connect the USB-C connector to the port on the controller, like so. And now when you lift up the DualSense controller, you can see that the connector is firmly placed within the controller. Now every time you want to charge the DualSense controller, just make sure you have this connector on. It is a bit of an eyesore having the connector always plugged in, but it does make life easier when putting the controller back onto the charging dock. Now I've got both controllers connected to the charging dock, and you can see the second controller is charging as indicated by the red controller on the display at the front of the charging dock. The first one is fully charged, so the controller is green. This is definitely a nice feature, as the LED indicators on the controllers may not always be directly visible. Now this is a charging dock I can see myself using as an alternative to the official DualSense charger, as it's quite easy to place the controller onto the charging dock. As was the case with the previous charging dock, lifting the controller is just as awkward. So if I try lifting the controller up, it'll lift the whole charging dock. So again, you'd have to press down on the charging dock and pull up in order to release. Even though you've got the additional connector, it's still as awkward to remove the controller from the charging dock. The final charging dock is from a company called Venom. The provided USB-C cable is 1 meter long and it's a braided cable. Definitely a higher quality when compared to the cables provided with the other two docks. Taking a closer look at the Venom charging dock, you can see that the top has a matte white finish with the bottom in a matte black. Again, the 4 rubber feet do have a shiny finish which shouldn't degrade the holding position of the charging dock when placed on the table. And then you've obviously got the charging connectors for the controllers. At the back of the charging dock you've got the input for power as well as a USB output port in case you want to charge other devices off this charging dock. I don't imagine it'll supply that much power. Accompanying the charging dock you've got these USB-C connectors and the gold contacts which will be resting on the charging dock. The dock itself weighs 125 grams, so it's definitely the heaviest of the bunch. Unlike the other two charging docks, the orientation of the controller will be the standard orientation as it's using these additional connectors in order to have the controller facing the right way up. I definitely prefer this adapter design as it's converting the USB connection to this connection that uses the gold contacts. So with the controller you simply connect the adapter to the controller, making sure that it's fully pressed in, and then it's just a case of dropping the controller onto the charging dock and lifting up when you want to use it. Just like with the adapters on the previous dock, you'd want to keep this connected to the controller. It's a bit less of an eyesore compared to the other adapters as it is white and it fits in with the theme a little better. Once the dock is powered, you can see that you've got these LED indicator lights at the front of the dock. So red means it's charging. If that turns into a solid blue, it means that the controller has fully charged. In conclusion, if you're looking for an alternative to the official charging dock from PlayStation, then I can highly recommend the Venom charging dock. It's the one that most closely resembles the official charger, and coupled with the fact that you get a high quality braided USB-C cable and the fact that you don't have to hold down the dock in order to lift the controller, makes it the best option if you're struggling to find the official charging station in stock. The worst out of the three is definitely the first Dobe charging dock that I showed. It's the one that I struggled most with in terms of placing the controller onto the dock and removing. In second place is the other one from Dobe. Because you can actually remove the connectors, it's easier to place the controllers onto the charging dock. The reason why it's not in first place is because it's just as difficult as the first Dobe charging dock in terms of removing the controller. If you're interested in any of the products I talked about today, links will be in the description. If you enjoyed the content, a like would be appreciated. For more tech related content, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.